welcome back to my channel. I'm Erica and I appreciate you being here. Today I am back with a manga update, although there is a little graphic novel situation as well, so maybe I should change the name of this series. I'll have to think about that. So I know it has been a while since I've done one of these, and I have not gotten to nearly as many as I had wanted to, but you know what? That is life. So today I'm going to be talking about some of the manga that I've finished, what I'm in the middle of, and then a couple that I just recently got that kind of look interesting. So we will jump right in. The first one, of course, I am continuing my very disturbing journey with blood on the tracks. So I did both volume 4 and volume 5. These are very troubling to me, as I'm sure they're very troubling to everyone. So this woman is seriously disturbed, and she's having really a pretty terrible effect on like everyone around her, but especially her son, this little guy right here. And you know, there's that whole attempted murder thing that she's got going on as well, but like she's wildly manipulative. It's extremely uncomfortable to read her behavior and see her interactions with him. And now we see, because this kid, he's having an increasingly difficult time dealing with his mom's behavior, and so he starts to make this friend at school, and she kind of turns into a little girlfriend. And I had an inkling that this girl was kind of the same type of person as his mom. And imagine my horror when I turned out to be right, like dead on, to the point where like you even see him like having flashes between their two faces, both his mom and his girlfriend, and I'm like, oh god, this poor kid. Like, not only is his mom jacked up and like she's messed him up, but this kid needs massive amounts of therapy at this point, because now he's choosing girls apparently who are gonna be exactly like his mom. I don't know. There's a lot of books in this series, and I might try to procure them all and just like make a speed run through them. They go relatively fast, but they trouble me quite a lot. I'm not entirely sure where this is going, like where it can go as an ultimate resolution. I'm curious to see, like, are we just on the ride with this little boy, like as he's just on the receiving end of his lunatic mom's behavior? Like, is that just the whole point of the story? Are we gonna have actually any kind of like positive outcome here? Or I guess really any kind of outcome. I mean, yeah, maybe somebody can get some income, but presumably the Shuzo Oshimi got some income from this. But are we gonna have any kind of like positive outcome, or really any outcome at all? Are we just gonna follow this poor kid through his whole life? We're gonna be on volume, what, I don't know, 783, and it's just gonna be following this dude as like a 45-year-old man who's still all like emotionally messed up because of his mom. Like, what are we doing? Are we building to something? I'm gonna need some resolution of this, because like, while this looks like a normal picture, it gives me very icky feelings. I don't like it. I did finish volume 1 of Moriarty the Patriot. I tried this one before, and I really struggled with the start. There's like 4 kids at the start. They all look very similar with the way that they're drawn, and it just, I don't know, I was having a weird day at that point when I tried to read it before. These characters confused me, so I was like, I'm gonna have to take a break. Well, I came back to it, and I did start from the beginning to try to get the characters straight, and I went in knowing that I was gonna be confused, and so I was paying much closer attention and like making mental note of who each person is and what they look like, and following along. See, the problem is at the beginning of the story there's some impersonation going on, so like at least one of these kids is impersonating another one of these kids. So I don't know, it was a lot for my coffee-addled brain to try to get through the first time, but I worked it out this time. We follow Moriarty, who of course is the nemesis of Sherlock Holmes. This is a very interesting tale of Moriarty. It's kind of an origin story for him, is where we're going to be getting at for the series. Certainly the beginning of this book is kind of like a prequel, like this happened so many years ago. What I think maybe 10 years before the main part of this story is when like the prequel events take place, and you really see sociopathy. I'm not a mental health professional, but these people are not well. The main characters in this book are not well. But it's interesting because we see Moriarty, yeah, he assumes a false identity. So that's how we get Moriarty. He assumes a false identity of a noble and goes on to, like, gain a lot of prestige as someone that's well educated. He's a professor, but he has stolen someone's identity in order to get where he is today. So while he is actually incredibly intelligent and did achieve all of these things, he did it under someone else's name and identity. We're kind of following him as he's becoming a Dexter of sorts, but not just a Dexter that the goal is to kill people. It's a Dexter that's trying to change society to be more fair. Like, it takes place in England at a time when the social classes were a lot more rigid. You stay in the class that you're born into. There's really not a whole lot of social movement, and Moriarty wants that to change. So he's not opposed to a little murder in an ends justify the means kind of way. Like, he's fine with it. But it's not really the whole point of what he's doing. The point is that he's trying to bring more equality to society, and he's going to use his way above average intelligence and his standing as a noble to try to get there. And he's not afraid to, get his hands a little dirty in the meantime. He's kind of taking on cases in the same way of Sherlock, but he's doing it in a way that's very different from how Sherlock takes on cases. So I am actually, once I got past that little hurdle of the beginning characters like wildly confusing me, I did go on to really enjoy the rest of this volume, and so I do plan to pick up the next one and continue the series. Death Note. So I finished volume 3. In this omnibus there's volumes 3 and 4, so number 3 is done. I am really liking this more as it goes on, and it kind of gets more out of control and off the rails. I'm really into it. There's surprisingly a lot of like philosophical discussion. I love the logical reasoning that both our main character Light and like kind of his nemesis Elle are doing. So of course we have the main character Light, who has the Death Note. So he's been taking it upon himself to cleanse society of people that he thinks are not really good for it. Not unlike Moriarty, by the way, speaking of like vigilante justice. So that's what our main character got himself into. He got a death god's Death Note, and he's just kind of like taking it upon himself to decide who lives and who dies. And of course the police, like everyone has taken note of this, like all of these weird deaths, because there's a pattern to it. And so now our main character is trying to elude detection so that nobody will figure out who is the killer, because it's a Death Note. Like, it's really hard to prove a killer in a Death Note situation. Somehow, though, this main investigator, he's doing a pretty good job. This Elle guy. Elle, not to be confused with our main character, Light. Elle is, like, working with the police. He's a super intelligent dude, and he's making all of these, like, logical reasonings about who the killer must be. You see, like, how similar they both are, because you get to see the reasoning that each one is doing. They're both extremely logical, so you see them reasoning out. It's like game theory, watching them evaluate their own next steps and what they can do and what the other person is gonna think depending on what they do, and if that means that maybe they should change what they do, but if they do change what they do, then that's going to just, is it possibly going to solidify what the other thing? Anyway, I really love logical things. I love logic puzzles. I love following game theory type of debate or discussion. So this is actually getting like way more up my alley than I ever thought that it would be. I love watching that play out. And it's just getting more off the rails as the story goes on, because it's like it's a worldwide story at this point. There's multiple countries getting involved in the investigation, and we've just got this teenager who's our main character who's got a Death Note and a death god following him around. I don't know. It'll be, and I feel like you could just stop using the Death Note. Just wait till things die down, no pun intended, wait till the heat is off. And I feel like it would be very hard to pinpoint the deaths to you, because unless somebody finds your notebook, that wouldn't make for a very interesting story, though, would it? I do wish that the Death God had a more active role. Right now, he kind of follows around our main character, Light. He wants apples all the time, so, like, that's a thing. He asks for apples a lot. And he does sometimes help out our main character because our Death God, of course, is invisible to everyone but the main character. So the Death God can, like, find things, look for things, listen to things, etc., that are very helpful to the main character. This little guy, that's the Death God. Well, he's not very little. He's actually pretty big. But, like, his little face on this book is little. I kind of want to see, I want him to get more involved. That's what I want. Right now, he's mostly just sitting back very amused at watching events play out. So I am going to start volume 4 next. I think there's 2 more omnibi after this one, right? So quite a few more volumes still to go until the resolution of the story. And then I do plan to watch, I think there's 2 movies, right? Or is it a movie and a series? Anyway, whatever it is, plan to watch the adaptations, but that'll be after I finish the series, so I'll be reading volume 4 next. And I am currently in the middle of reading The Adventure Zone, the first volume, Here There Be Gerblins. As I started reading this, I realized it felt very familiar, and I believe I actually listened to the first, like, campaign. I was gonna call it a season. That's why I got my little bunny ears, my air quotes up here. No, I believe I listened to their first campaign like years ago when it came out, but it's been a long time. What is that, like 10 years now or close to it? So what I decided to do when I started reading this, I thought it would be fun to have kind of like a multimedia experience. So what I am doing is I've been reading and then going back to the actual podcast and listening to each episode. So it's kind of like I read this and I see the story and then I go back to the podcast and listen. It gives all that extra context of like how the events in the story are actually playing out and like why, and the discussion around the things that are happening. So it's actually been really fun to do it that way. If you haven't read The Adventure Zone yet, I would recommend giving a try that way. This book is very handily split up into sections, so it's easy just to read to a certain point and then you go listen to the episode. And I am absolutely going to be continuing with the series. It's been really fun to go back and just listen to somebody else's kind of ridiculous D&D campaign and read the actual outcome. Like, and I love too, it's really fun graphics, the way these were drawn. Kind of a dark page. Don't know why I pulled up the dark section when they're in a cave. There you go. Travel montage. Look at that. That's so fun. I love a montage. Well, I love a good montage. I really recommend this. This has been super fun. It really makes me want to play some D&D. I haven't played in years. I have no dungeon master or game master, I guess as they're calling it. Is there a difference? Is there a difference between a DM and a GM? Let me know. Do you call it a GM or do you call it a DM? Because I tend to call it a DM, like, no matter what. So I was lucky enough to go to Comic-Con, and in my preparation for going to Comic-Con, because I knew Felicia Day was going to be there, it inspired me to rewatch The Guild for, like, I don't know, what, the 10th time. And especially there's an episode of The Guild where they all go to what is supposed to basically be Comic-Con. And as I was preparing to go, and I was watching that episode, and Zabu has, like, these giant plans laid out for how he can possibly go and do everything every day to maximize his schedule. And he's like chugging energy drinks. I'm like, that's gonna be me at San Diego Comic-Con. And indeed, that was pretty close to reality for me at San Diego Comic-Con. So with all that to say, with Felicia Day, at least, I really wanted this to get signed by her. Alas, she is way too damn popular. However, I really need to read this. Even though I've watched The Guild, I really need to read this. It's my understanding this is actually a prequel story to the Guild series itself. I am excited to read it. I think that there's one more volume for this. Just one. If you haven't watched The Guild, by the way, and you enjoy any kind of games, I would say give it a try. It's a very amusing show about a gaming guild, and the very interesting characters in this gaming guild, as they have kind of both real life and online shenanigans kind of end up being woven together. The last two comics that I bought at Comic-Con, as I was wandering around, there's tons and tons of independent comic artists in addition to like the big names, but I was wandering through like the independent booths. I saw some really cool stuff. So as I was wandering the independent booths and I came upon this one, I believe one of the artists, or at least the creator, was the one that I talked to, and I saw this and I said, "Sir," I did. I said, "Sir, you got a cat here? Which means that I want to buy your product. So like sell me on it." And so he did. He did indeed. It's about like Robo-Cats and Thunder Dogs. It's a series about these cats and dogs who are like initially enemies, just like real life, right? But then they kind of have to team up. Ooh. You look on the back. I want you to look on the back. You tell me that this is not adorable, okay? I am absolutely going to read this. In fact, I wandered a lot of the convention floor, like the exhibit hall, going up to booths when I saw cat stuff and being like, "Look, you got cat stuff, so I'm going to give you some of my money." But this one says, "It's cats and dogs and giant mech robots battling for the mythic treat island." Okay. This sounds fantastic. 100% I'm gonna read this. And then the second comic that I got at Comic-Con actually has, I think it's 3 different stories in this volume. So this is Project Neosis. This is by Paul Thayer. I got them to meet the creator. He was nice enough to sign all the copies. This dude, you know what, I gotta give a shout out to Mr. Paul Thayer here, okay? Because his booth was standing up, like, it was across from this like wildly popular, adorable little booth that was selling like the cutest things and a ton of BTS stuff. So like booth right across the way from this dude was packed, right? Everybody wanted the BTS. I did stop at the BTS booth and I got something for one of my friends. But while I was over there, man, Mr. Paul Thayer, shout out to you, sir. I know you're not watching this, but like still shout out to you. This guy was working overtime to get people's attention who are passing by. And I looked at him and I was like, "Sir, I am coming over to you as soon as I am done here." And it took a while because that BTS line was long, man. These fans are serious. But I did go over, clearly. I was like, "All right, so tell me about your comic." And like, it's basically some sci-fi superhero stuff. He gave me an awesome deal on the volume and I was like, you know what? Let me try branching out. A lot of it too, it reminded me of like I used to love like superhero cartoons when I was a kid, like in the 80s and the 90s. So reminded me a lot, like the drawing. It's some very nice binding. I actually don't want to crack this spine, even though I usually don't care. But no, I thought that, there you go. I thought it was cool, and he gave me a good deal, and man, this dude was like clearly taking a lot of pride in his work, which I think is awesome. I love to see people who are passionate about, about what they do, what they're interested in. So I'm gonna give it a try, even though it's a little bit outside my comfort zone, and we'll see how it goes. That's actually all that I have for like manga / graphic novel / maybe comic a little bit update this month. I did not get to read any Way of the House Husband. Can you believe it? I know. So I need to work through that. I'm probably gonna try to binge Blood on the Tracks all at once. I've also got Spy Family lined up and the next volume in the Final Fantasy Lost Strangers series coming. Well, not coming. I've got it. I just mean it's coming on my to read list. I don't know. That made sense in my mind. Anyway, I'm really hoping to go to Comic-Con again next year, and I hope that by the time that I do, I've had enough experience in like getting a good feel for what I like in a comic and what I don't, that I can have like a way better approach to actually going through all of those sellers and artists and the exhibit hall. There are just so many awesome looking things, artists out there, creators out there really trying to sell their work. And I'd love to have a better idea of what I really like so that I can go there and actually like spend more money but be able to do it confidently and give it to creators who I think I'm really gonna like what they're selling. So that's my goal. That's my goal for the next year, because I am, fingers crossed, I'm gonna try to go to Comic-Con again next year. it all depends on the lottery, right? You never know. It depends on if the lottery gods smile upon you to get those badges or not. So I guess we'll see. But that's my current goal anyway. What have you been reading lately for manga, graphic novels, comics? Have you read anything good? Have you read anything you really didn't like? Or are you about to be trying something new? I don't know. Let me know. Let me know. Let's chat. I do appreciate you coming by today, as always. Please remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.